Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, President of Universal Accounting Center, and it is my pleasure to have on each and every week experts to actually address various things that we need to be doing to build successful bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. Today, I'm honored to actually have Soufyan Hamid. He is someone that I've been looking forward to having on the show. He happens to actually be an expert of more than 15 years of corporate experience. Soufyan is based in Brussels and is recognized as an expert in improving the presentation skills of FP&A teams located worldwide through his online boot camps and training. After holding executive positions with firms such as PricewaterhouseCoopers and Deloitte, he founded Souf PB. This is a global consulting firm helping financial professionals master the delivery of their presentations by improving their presentation, messaging, and visuals. Soufyan's training fills the void in finance training, as it is often missed for most professionals, and enables them to excel through their proprietary method called the Financial Storytelling Program. To date, his program is used by financial professionals worldwide, and he is a top storytelling voice in LinkedIn with more than 55,000 followers. After following all the usual steps to becoming efficient in as a financial professional, he mastered the art of reporting, dashboarding, automation, striking with business drivers integration, and killing it with financial modelization. But then he discovered that that was not enough to make an impact. If you want to be influential as a decision maker, you have to convince. So with that, Soufyan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Yes, I've been looking forward to this because you've got an interesting background as it relates to accounting. Why don't you share with everyone a little bit of your background as to how you became involved in the accounting profession?
Well, it was quite classic, let's say. I studied accounting and finance in general, but quite soon in my studies, the Big Four came in our job fairs. And so it was pretty evident for me that I would start my career at a Big Four company. And I started in an audit at PricewaterhouseCoopers, where I worked during 4 years. Those were incredible years because it was a sort of accelerated training, but I needed to work inside a company to understand really what accounting and finance in general was. So I decided to join Deloitte in their business process solution department, which was actually a department that helped me get the experience working inside companies, but for a limited time. So temporary work, basically. And there I had the opportunity to experience what accounting was, accounts payable, accounts receivable, general accounting, but also other fields like treasury, and finally, FP&A. Business controlling, finance business partnering. This is where I really understood that it was my destiny to continue working in FP&A. However, working for Deloitte was a bit frustrating at the end because you never stayed long enough to see the result of your work.
Interesting.
So you were there to provide a work during 6 months, 1 year maximum, and then you leave. So the budgets you prepared, for example, you were not there to see if they were right. So I decided to quit and join Proximus, which is the first telco company in Belgium.
Okay.
As a finance business partner. And this is where I truly understood that what I learned in my technical skills were not enough to really succeed in finance. Because when you are a consultant, everybody knows that you're there temporarily. You have the shield or the umbrella of the brand, like Deloitte or PricewaterhouseCoopers. So what you say is believed in. You have the credibility to provide advice and recommendations. But when you work inside a company, you have to get that credibility. You have to get these credentials allowing you to give recommendations and advice as an internal consultant. And I didn't have that. When I started, I was so convinced that with my technical background, I could be believed, I could be followed, and that I would simply have to present the result of my work to make people take decisions. But this is not how it works. When you have a client, when you have an internal client or an external client, he or she will have their own gut feeling, their own experience, and they will challenge what you say. They will not believe it directly because they will receive reports from somewhere else. And for them, finance will remain just an obligation. You have to do accounting. You have to keep your books in order to make them audited in the end and to provide a financial report at the end of each quarter or at the end of each year. They don't use it that much for their daily work, except if you make the effort to explain them in their language. And this is clearly how I understood that communication and storytelling were important, of paramount importance.
Well, before we go down there, I want to first of all address the fact that when you were with PricewaterhouseCoopers and as well Deloitte, you're right. I think a lot of my listeners can relate to the fact that when working for a larger corporation, you do have the name, the recognition of the employer that you can actually stand with as you're doing all these services. But when you break out, go independent, start your own business, it clearly is more your direct relationship with the client. And it's really not what you're saying, but what you're doing for the client that begins to truly matter. And you're working with different clients. The smaller business owner actually has a greater interest, I feel, in exactly that relationship they're having with you as the accounting professional. So this is very personable at that point. It becomes a very personable interaction, and the onboarding of that client and the client retention hinges on that relationship. So one of the things that you then obviously experienced was going out on your own. Tell me about starting your own company,
SoufPP. Yeah, well, it all started after I decided to quit Proximus. My goal was two-sided. I still loved to work as an FP&A professional. I wanted to keep on providing these services, and at the same time, I was obsessed with providing trainings as well. I'm a sort of a teacher in my mind.
Okay.
This is something I wanted, but in Belgium, the profession of teacher is not that respected. So I decided to go for the professional side of it. And this was the only way to be able to do both, to start my own company. So what I do to keep living those two passions is that I still work as a temporary worker for companies who need someone half-time of the job, and more in controlling or finance business partnering, so basically FP&A. And I do that alone. I don't have any employee. Still no employee, but we never know for the future. But for the moment, I'm happy like that, and I work as an interim manager in FP&A for medium to large size company who need someone during 6 months, 1 year. And when I have the other half of my time, I provide trainings to companies, but also to individuals, more online, but also in person.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that intrigues me is you mentioned before we did the show that you had actually been interviewing the CFOs of different companies to find out what it was that they felt was a disconnect from the information that was being communicated to them as they're running their business, how the accounting information is shared so that they can be making informed business decisions. And this is one of the things that really interests me, because I, like you, got quite a bit of information when I was preparing to write my book, Your Strategic Accountant. And as I was speaking with business owners and I was talking to them, I learned very quickly that there is a disconnect between the way that accounting professionals deliver the information and what it is they need to run their businesses. So share with us, what were the 5 main problems that you found that are presenting the accounting information was not addressing.
Yeah. Well, it all started when I was still at Proximus, because I got many challenges from the CFO when I presented my own work. I kept on proving that my work was correct, that I had all the information needed to support all the supporting evidence that was needed to prove that the work was done well. But the thing is, I never thought of the next step. The CFO had to present those to other people who were not in finance. And so once he just told me, Soufyan, you're a really good technician. You are really good at the technical side of finance. But the thing is that the people I will present it to are not finance people. And so what I need you to do is absolutely go out of that expert shelf and tell the business story behind. The thing is, accounting is basically the business reality translated into a language, right?
Exactly. Completely agree. I've always said, and people have said it for years, accounting's the language of business, but our role as accounting professionals is then to be the interpreter, the translator of that story, so that the narrative can be, appreciated by the people who are living and experiencing it. So,
exactly.
So keep going. This is wonderful.
Yeah, and so this is really how I understood the big concept of reversing the narrative. So our role in finance is to get the business information, translate it into accounting, but to send it back to the business, we will have to reverse that operation and represent it like the business reality. And so this is what I've done as an FP&A professional. And to support this methodology that I wanted to develop, because it became such an obsession in my mind, I decided that I could not just base myself on my own learning, on my CFO learning. And this is why I decided to take the step of interviewing more than 30 CFOs in the last 2 years, CFOs from different companies, bigger companies, smaller companies, CFOs from fractional CFO firms. And they offered me a different view, which in general coincided in 5 main points.
And what are those?
Yeah, 5 main issues that each of them found in finance presentations that they got from their staff. The first one is that when they go out of a finance presentation, non-finance people, for example, they don't know what the message is. Normally, when you go out of the meeting, you have one big idea that you have to keep in mind. And when they get the monthly results or the quarterly results, they don't know what to do with it. So this is the message that misses. The second point is that the presentations are not tailored to the audience. When finance people tend to present their monthly results or the quarterly results, they speak a financial jargon. EBITDA, cash flow, revenues, and then they speak of accruals and US GAAP, IFRS. And so people are lost. And when they are lost, they don't listen anymore.
A confused mind says no.
Exactly. And the third point is that there's no use of a narrative structure to talk to non-finance people or to the CFO. When you do not have a narrative, what do people do? They use what they know. And what they know is the structure of the P&L, for example. And they will go with the revenue and then go for the cost of sales. They will detail each type of cost of sales. And then they will go for the operating expenses, et cetera, et cetera. This means a lot for us in finance because we are basically educated in that. But for other people, that doesn't mean anything. So the narrative will help you as a finance professional to think another way that the majority of the world, which is non-finance people, will understand. The fourth point, I guess that you have seen it I'm pretty sure you and many CFO firms owner have seen, reports and slides are too crowded. We put too many information in those slides, and you have 1, 2, 3 graphs. You add text on it, a big title, and then you have backup slides. And finally, you get a slide deck of 50 to 100 pages with more information that you could put in a book. And when you have too much, you don't do anything with that. So you have to make sure that the visuals are as simple as your narrative. And the fifth point is that when finance professionals have the opportunity to present, they do not prepare enough because they are so concerned about putting it in a slide, in a report, that they don't think of practicing their delivery. They don't think how it is to convince people to talk to them, to look at them, to use your body to convince them in a proper way. And also, one of the most important points, questions are not prepared in advance. So when you arrive there, somebody asks a question, you're not able to answer, chances are you are going to lose your credibility.
Well, one of the things that I like about this is you've obviously identified 5 concise things that when we're presenting information to our clients, we need to be sensitive to. We can't just assume that they understand and know what the numbers mean. We have to do, as you're addressing, storytell this in a narrative that they can appreciate and understand. So let's go through each of these 5 things and see what advice you would have for each of them. Let's go one by one. What is the first one that you identified, and what is your solution or suggestion that accounting professionals should consider to avoid that problem?
Well, glad that you asked, because from those 5 points, I prepared a framework that I named the story framework, the STORY, that addresses each of those pain points that CFOs feel. The first one would be the S, addressing the message problem, and it would be select your message. Thanks to that, you will understand in an analytical sense of your work how to select what to say and what not to say. It will be through the price volume mix analysis, and for that you will need business drivers, but also thanks to the Pareto rule, when you find out that 80% of your variance is explained by 20% of the business reasons behind. And also it's important to think business-wise. That means that although your variances between the actual and the budget, or between this year and last year, although those are explained in different lines of your P&L, when you put next to it the business reasons, you will find out that many of those are related. And so instead of detailing the 4 lines in which these business reasons had an impact, well, you just can speak of the business reason behind and determine the impact by summing it all. That means that 4 lines in your P&L would become one supporting message in your presentation. So this is the first step. It's to decrease as much as possible the number of messages. And ideally, you would have one global message supported by supporting evidence.
So one of the things that I learned years ago that's similar to this is asking the question, therefore what? And what it basically boils down to is at the end of the presentation, what do I take or do with all this information? Therefore what? Where do I go from here? And what I like about what you're sharing is that we need to begin with that end in mind. What is it that we're going to suggest that the client be aware of or do? And what can we do to tailor our messaging to help come to that conclusion and draw that out so that the client can clearly see what's happening? And I think that's very important because there's a lot of information and there's a lot to be overwhelmed by, and our job is to make it easy and make it concise. So we're supposed to get rid of all that noise and give them that one simple message that they need to understand about their company, which they are experiencing. But what we're hopefully doing is helping them see the quantifiable proof of what it is they're experiencing. So good. Okay, let's go to the second one.
The second one would be the T. It's to target your audience. I don't want to bring too much complexity to that topic, because the audience can be very varied. When you are working in finance, you will not only present to one person, but most of the cases you will be in a meeting with different people. You just have to think about two things: the hierarchy, who's the highest ranked, and also the person the message will be directed to. So if you have a message that puts someone in the spotlight positively or negatively, you will want to make sure that your message is targeted to them, and the way you will deliver will be targeted to them. And that leads to two storytelling structures that I will detail in the third step, which is the O, organize your thoughts.
Well, hold on. Well, yeah. Before we leave and go to O, I really think it's important that we know our audience. As any good presenter would understand, you have to know the medium that you're delivering. What's the setting? Is this going to be a small group that I can interact with, a large group that I'm going to be more speaking to as opposed to with? And that understanding helps your delivery. But knowing your audience, do they have an understanding or background in accounting, or don't they? To what level do I want to educate them versus presume they already know? So that's all very important. So I like that context of, first of all, knowing your audience. So let's go to the third. Let's go to O.
Yeah. No, indeed. Knowing your audience is of paramount importance, because it will lead to the presentation itself, how you deliver it. And the how will also be how you structure your thoughts and your story. And the narrative will be simplified in two ways, let's say. You will have experts and you will have executives. Executives are the ones who are generalists and know a bit of everything, but are not expert in anything, and they don't have the time. So for them, you will start with the conclusion and then deliver the supporting evidence if you have the opportunity. While for experts who are more used to build their knowledge according to the supporting documents or supporting evidence they've had, you will first detail what you've observed, how it will impact, and then you will bring the conclusion. Those are really the two structures you can use in organizing your thoughts. And there are opening lines or closing lines according to how you want to deliver your presentation and your meeting. But let's remember that the structure will most often be in a presentation in a meeting. So you have to leave place for a discussion after that. That's really important.
I like that, because one of the things that I learned early on is there's a sensitivity that exists as accounting professionals work with business owners, which is we don't want to come across telling the business owner what to do. This is not our company. This is for them to decide. And so as we deliver this information, what we're doing is we're hopefully clarifying what's happening, and we're hopefully ending with options. Here are some things that they ought to consider doing. But at the end of the day, we want to avoid this is what needs to be done next and so forth, simply because what we want to do is leave it up to that discussion that you're alluding to, for them to actually have that conversation about where do we go from here? Knowing this, what do we do next? And that's for them to decide as they run the business. We're supposed to be delivering the information and helping them make informed business decisions. We can give advice as to here are some of the choices or options, but at the end of the day, we want to be clear that we're not saying what should be done next. And I think that's one of the key things that I would add to this, because I think it's part of that whole storytelling process that you're sharing. So from here, it goes to the next step. What's the next one?
The next step would be the R, review your visuals. So here you just have to learn some ways to design your slides and some basic rules of leaving enough white space, how to make the best charts possible, which are decluttered, when you suppress all the unnecessary information, where you highlight what you want to talk about, and you will want to limit the text available in your slides so that people listen to you. Of course, I'm speaking slides in the context of a presentation, not slides that are delivered as a reports, because a report, you can do it in Excel, you can do it in PowerPoint, in Word, whatever. A report is meant to be read. But when you are using slides as a supporting visual for your presentation, you will want to leave as few information as possible on the slide itself so that people listen to you. This is really important because I put it in the fourth position to make sure that finance professionals think first about what they will say and then how they will say it. Today, what I've observed, and this is one of the feedbacks I've received from the many CFOs I've had the opportunity to discuss with, people start with the usual slide. They have a deck that they refresh every month, and so it's every month the same deck. It's a report, and reports are great. But when you want to deliver a presentation, you will want to avoid using the same structure as usual. You might keep one slide, for example, for the beginning to have the global overview, but then try to avoid repeating the same formula every month. Otherwise, people will just say same old, and they will not listen to you anymore, and they will just not consider back any additional information you might bring because they will think they've heard it already.
I love this advice. This is wonderful because, first of all, the PowerPoint presentation is not the report. That's something that you could give as a handout or as a PDF and so forth. What the presentation is meant to be is a summary of all the highlights of this. And one of the best pieces of advice I got years ago is less is more. The less you do, you can actually do better. You don't want to actually have the PowerPoint be the center of attention. You're the deliverer, you're the expert. This is supporting information. You need to be the one that everyone's paying attention to, not the slides. And then the last bit I would just add to this that I also found to be very, very helpful is I was taught years ago that you should spend no more than 3 minutes on a slide. Therefore, if you're doing a 30-minute presentation, you should only have 10 slides. And for many people, that's amazing because what they do is they start to make their presentations and they realize, oh, I've got more to say. I want another slide. I want another slide. And so for a 30-minute presentation, they'll create as many as 15, 20 slides. And then they're wondering why at the end are they rushed? Why are they at the end trying to get in more information that they are having to leave out? And all of a sudden, it's because they broke some very important rules. One, they weren't the center of attention. Two, they did too many slides. All of these things play together to you being the expert as you're delivering the information to the client. So I'm loving all of this. So Soufyan, as I look at what you're sharing here as part of your financial storytelling process, what is one of the challenges that people struggle with as they implement it? So as you teach this, as you help people realize this is what they ought to be doing as they deliver information to clients, what's one of the challenges that they face as they're trying to follow this process?
The biggest challenge, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the many people I worked with, is to leave things behind. When you work in finance, you have to be complete, accurate. And so we see our work as a puzzle. When you miss a piece, it means the puzzle is not complete. And having to explain a variance in your P&L of 1 million by simply explaining 800K is like a pain for many people, because those 200K will remain in their head, And they will just say, yeah, but there might be something important there. They will somehow find it important. And it doesn't really matter whether the 800 were explained by 2 events. They will want to explain the 20 other events explaining the 200K that were left. And so this is the pain. And I understand that pain because I've been exactly the same. I used to work in auditing. And so we had this materiality level where we had to explain until a certain point. And so you absolutely wanted to reach that point to make sure that your work could be considered as complete, accurate, and all the audit assertions you needed to respect to make sure your work was validated. And this is what we keep on having in accounting, because your debit must equal the credit. And so this is what we have also in explaining the P&L, or where we want to explain it all until it makes zero. But that's not the goal. And this is what's the most difficult to implement, because people will find the small point there and you will tell them, what does it change for the business owner? What does it change for your internal customer in a company? They will say, yeah, but and they will stutter and they will hesitate. I've seen that a lot. This is the biggest pain they feel when I try to implement.
I could totally relate to that. You're aware of something that is not as relevant to the conversation you're about to have, the presentation you're about to do, but you're aware of it. And so you feel like you need to include it because it's something that you're noticing. And it's how do you incorporate it into the bigger presentation and maybe not have it be as distracting as you feel it may be. So very good point.
I used to call that the curse of knowledge.
Very good. Yes, I would agree with you. It's that one thing that that you want to share, but honestly, at the end of the day, does it really matter?
Exactly.
Good point. All right. So next is, can you share an example of someone who, like one of your CFOs that are clients, when they experience the change in delivery, when someone follows the financial storytelling process, and they're able to say, this was a much better presentation, much more informative. Can you share a story of how that changed and how they appreciated this different approach to delivering the financial information?
Well, I will tell you about a story that I had back when I was responsible of the strategic planning in my previous company. Presentations in finance were generally thought as boring, as dull. And so it was a necessary event that people had to suffer during 1 hour. And that year, when I learned storytelling techniques and that I developed my own methodology, I decided to implement as much as possible during that year. And my presentation lasted 1 hour and 20 minutes instead of 1 hour. Why? Because my presentation itself was 40 minutes maximum. I had left 20 minutes, but people were so involved that I had 40 minutes questions, 14 minutes discussions, 40 minutes where people were really thinking about what they were going to do in the 5-year plan. And so this is how I understood the power of storytelling, because my CFO was in that presentation and he directly told me, Soufyan, I've never seen them discussing so much about a finance presentation. So when you have an impact, and receiving questions during our presentation, receiving remarks, having a discussion during your presentation is not a bad sign. It's a great sign that you got to do what you needed to do, interest them, make them interested in your topic. And so when you have 40 minutes of discussions, questions, and decisions that were taken, exchanges between people who, even if they work together, are not used to discuss strategy together, well, you do your job. And I was super happy at that moment that I did my job and that I understood that presenting differently could have an impact.
I love it. No, that's a great illustration of the fact that you did well simply because everyone was wanting to discuss it further and go deeper and apply it. It's addressing that question that I said earlier, therefore what? And they had that conversation. So that's impactful. So this has been an amazing conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I was looking forward to it as to discussing the principles found in the financial storytelling process. I think that's powerful. So this is what I'd like to do. I'm going to summarize our conversation here and share some information for my listeners. So the first thing I want to point out to everyone is to go to the episode description. There you're going to find information as to connecting with Soufyan. And with that, you can go to LinkedIn and he has his information there in the episode description. But at the same time, you can also reach out to him for his services and information regarding more about this plan or this process by going to his website. And that information is going to be found in the episode description. So plan on going there. I would also invite you to go to the episode description to get a copy of the book, Your Strategic Accountant. It's here where we talk about this relationship that as accounting professionals we should have with our clients and what it is as business owners they should be expecting from us as accounting professionals so that we can help them basically run their businesses using this informative information that we have to offer, which is the accounting we do for our clients. So definitely check out that information in the episode description. Likewise, as a summary, I want to just point out I really appreciated the narrative as to how he got to where he was. He started obviously in accounting, working for some of the larger firms, and through that got that technical experience, but quickly learned from the CFOs and business owners that it was too technical and it was not applicable. They didn't see the application of what it was he was sharing in the information he was providing. And so he realized he needed to really change and present this in kind of a story process. And I liked how he adapted that story to be an acronym for the financial presentation process that he has. That storytelling, I think, then allows the delivery of this accounting information to be done more intentionally and more user-friendly. The business owners are able to actually take, listen, and apply this information in their businesses to make more informed business decisions. So I like those 5 steps. Those things were, I think, very natural and very important to follow. So like everyone here, I'm excited to actually take these nuggets of information to improve how I deliver my presentations. And then at the same time, I really liked the insights that he shared at the end as to how the business owner was able to share this really did make a difference. And why? Because they had that later conversation following the presentation to really kind of see, okay, where do we go from here and what do we do next? And that was a great testament of how the delivery or presentation had changed. So, Soufyan, what I'd like to ask is, do you have a closing thought, just something that you'd like to share with our listeners as a parting thought?
Well, this is interesting because when I first started, I understood that the storytelling was important for internal finance professional working inside a company. But recently, I had the opportunity to give that training to an accounting firm, and I understood that they also have clients, and even more importantly, they often have clients who are not trained to finance. So for your listeners, I think that this is really important today to start thinking to reverse the narrative, because their clients will not be trained in finance. They will be most probably business owners who will have other priorities. They will want to know the financial health of their companies, but they will also want to understand how it impacts them daily. And their daily life is not the EBITDA. Their daily life is not the cash flow as we tend to present it in finance. Their daily life is their business. And so I think this is part of the added value we can bring as service providers to really translate it back to the reality of our clients.
Excellent. So I like that. Thank you for that. So here's what I'm going to do to wrap this up. First of all, I'd like to invite all of you, my listeners, to subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast and get notifications each week as we release new episodes, listening to the experts and applying various principles that we can in our business to, in fact, build the premier accounting firm in our area. Also, if you'd like to take advantage of the highlights, the various things that we've captured over the more than 3 years of doing the show, I want to encourage you to go to the highlights episodes. It's a playlist of various topical type themes that you can check out. It's at universalaccounting.com. In the navigation, you go to podcast, and there you'll find highlights. This is where we've put together collections of topics related to marketing, selling, onboarding clients, tech stacks, mental health, training staff, all these various topics that you would definitely find applicable based on your current situation. And you can binge listen to those and find out what the experts are saying as it relates to each of those topics. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is, if you haven't already, register for GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference that we have for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. This is a conference that you do not want to miss. We bring the experts up on the stage and have them share with us the insights, the trending things, the things we need to be in the know of now so that we can work on our businesses. You also get to meet with your peers, interact with those people that are like you, working to grow their businesses, and through that, find collaborative opportunities. Maybe there's different things that you can do to collectively and collaboratively take care of your clients. And then also that's the staff here at Universal Accounting Center. You get to meet those that are committed to helping you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is, if you haven't, go to the free resource section of universalaccounting.com and find the various tools and resources that we're providing to assist you as you're working to work on your business, build your company, offer quality accounting services, and get paid what you're worth. Check out the free resource section at universalaccounting.com. And then regarding these principles, the concepts that we discuss each and every week, if you haven't found how to best apply them, feel free to reach out to us. You can contact us at universalaccountingschool.com or give us a phone call at 801-265-3777. And always remember this: if it's about accounting, it is universal. Do take care. Have a great day and be safe out there.